Okay, so here's a bit of a quick install on a Sirocco fan I'm going to do. This is the previous one. I've had to do some wiring, jigging around inside that radio cavity, but finally got it in. And now in this fan I'm going to put another one on the other side. Now I've got to get a power takeoff point, and the power takeoff is going to be down there. So this is where this light is situated. I've had to get a wire up the wall, crack through the insulation because it's an insulated van. Basically just poke through that using a bit of spaghetti wire, this stuff. So come inside here, you'll see over in that back corner there's a little hole drilled. So what I did was effectively feed the spaghetti wire down there until it came out there. Then on the end of the spaghetti wire I put a bit of this plastic tube. So that plastic tube was pulled through from the top. That's why you can see it at the top there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to feed my wire through that tube now, and it'll give me some sort of insulation of the wire, so it'll be protected when it gets poked through. So this bit of twin core wire, which is going to feed the fan, is going to get fed into that tube and come out all the way down the bottom. So the only difficulty with this tube and wire combo is the tube is just a little bit, well, the wire goes in okay, but it must be somewhere down in the wall. There's a bit of a crimp. So what I'll do is, to make it go through easier, I'm going to spray a bit of silicone spray down that tube, and hopefully it'll slide through a bit easier. Let's see how that goes. I better put something underneath that. So underneath that I'll put a bit of paper, because you can bet that the silicone spray is going to come out all over the couch. So there you go, there it's coming out, so I know it's well lubed up. Alright, so catch all that. And then I'll feed that in. And we should be hunky-dory. Let's see how easily that goes through, and if it comes out the bottom properly. So let's have a bit of a feed. And look at that, all going through nice and easy now. So that's made my wire come out the bottom there. So all I have to do is connect it to those red wires appropriately, positive and negative. Up here I'm going to run a bit of channel track across the corner there, and then I'll drill a hole in about here. Blood on my fingers from poking in too many holes, I think. Put a hole in here so I can feed a wire out this side to feed the fan and connect it up, and it should be all go once I mount it onto this bit of timber at the end. I'll show you the progress in a minute. Okay, so now what I've got to do is I've got to find out where this board would be located behind this board, and the same along the bottom, because that's what I've got to screw into, somewhere along here and somewhere along there. Found this bit of scrap MDF, which is about right for showing the gap between that face and this end. So when I put that on there, I know where that board starts, so I can mark a line down there. So I'll mark a line down the inside of that, and then I'll know where my board starts, and I can measure across a thickness to screw into. So let's show that when it comes up. I don't know how well that shows up, but there's a couple of pencil lines there that shows you where the inner timbers are that I can screw into. There's really not much point trying to screw into this part, because I don't think it's very heavy. It's not actually solid, it's like a veneer board, 2 layers, so it'll be hollow inside. So my strength is going to be in here and here, so that's what I'm going to screw to. So I'll get my little template, line it up, put some screw holes in, screw it on, and then locate the bracket that the fan sits on. Alright, so this is the bracket that's going to hold the fans, which you've got to screw this to there somehow. So I'll line up this hole, and this hole. So this one, and this one on the timber inside. So I'll locate that on 3 screws. I'll locate it, and then perhaps stick another one in here, just see what happens. Might get a bit of purchase. Even if I do get a little bit, it's alright, better than nothing. So those holes here for the screws that I have are not quite big enough in diameter, so I'm going to drill out those 3 holes just so they accept the screws that I've got, and then screw it on there. Righto, so I've had to grind a little bit off these heads because those heads don't quite fit into that hole. where it's got to go. So if I don't grind them down so that they fit in flush, so when that goes in it sits below the surface. So if I don't do that, when I put the fan on, the fan base, this part here, actually sits a little bit proud of the wall, so because it sometimes somehow internally just binds a bit. So I've ground them off so they sit flush now, so that'll be perfect for mountain mat. Alrighty, so there's that panel plate screwed to the end of the wall, into the cupboard. Mainly those 3 big screws, but I just put one for good measure on the left hand side, so it's pretty solid. That holds the fan pretty well. I'll just show you what that looks like. This just slots on there now, so those keyhole slots in the back of that, the big circular part locates onto the lug and then just drops down. So if I can see it, there we go, and that just slots down, so that sits there now and holds. And that sits there pretty solidly. Yeah, not going to go anywhere. It's all good. Okay, now I've got to just find a place to put the wire through. And then when I put the wire through, I can put the little screws in here. It's one on either side, one on the other side. That holds the fan to that plate. And then that's basically the fan secured. Just got to do the wiring, and then bring the wiring down to this point here, and connect it, and I'll run the wire in a little bit of this channel. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. But because it's just timber in there, I don't want the bare wire exposed. I'll protect that with a bit of this channel stuff. Anyway, all right. So I've found a hole or place to put my wire through. It keeps it pretty close to the bottom inside there. You can sort of see that maybe. Let me see. You can see where I've drilled in there, just to get through the wire to the other side. I had to find a spot on this. So basically there's a slot on the back of the fan here. There's a little slot, so the wire can run up that to get to these 2 terminals. So my hole's about there. I did actually mark a little couple of, it's hard to see, but I marked 2 little marks here where that slot lined up, so I just drilled up vertically until I found where I thought was it going to come through here on the inside. It come through pretty well. So now all I have to do is run this wire down that little channel, or up that channel, to get to those terminals, which will be these 2 here, those 2 terminals there. So it'll run up this channel into there and get wired on there. Then that's job done for the fan. All I've got to do is then complete the wiring over at this end to these positive wires and negative wires, put the light back, and away we'll go. Okay, so that's pretty well all finished off now. I guess one of the biggest issues with a caravan is trying to put wiring through post-build. It becomes a bit problematic because you've got to go through walls, and you know, you might encounter studs or some kind of timber battening or something that's preventing you from getting a wire through. But you know, in this case I pretty well lucked in because the wires are just basically running straight up and down, only over a short distance from that light to the fan where it comes through. So it basically gives me a pretty clear run up the wall. I did have to dig through the insulation, as I said, but that's the worst of it. So pretty much ends up a pretty nice, neat finish without any wires really showing. Of course, you can't do much about what's in there, but you make it look as neat as you can. And let's make sure it works. But of course it does, because I've already tested it before I took this. So there we go. There's our Sirocco fan number 2. That's in number 2 in the van, because there's one there as well. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. And there's, like any job in a van, there's always the mess to clean up. Anyway, you don't make an omelette without breaking a few eggs, do you?